Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmaracharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Good. Be seated, please. Shura. Om. Good. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryan Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Good. Nice to see you all this morning, and welcome also to our students watching online. We've come towards the last part of Chapter 10, Vibhuti Yoga. I'll give a bit of an introduction in a moment. Let's begin, though, as always, with some recitation. We'll start with verse 34. And be sure to read the translation as I'm chanting, then repeat after me. Mrityu sarvaharaschaham, Mrityu sarvaharaschaham, Udbhavascha bhavishyatam, Udbhavascha bhavishyatam, Kirtishrirvakcha narinam, Kirtishrirvakcha narinam, Smritir medha dhritikshama, Smritir medha dhritikshama, Prahat sama tatha samnam, Prahat sama tatha samnam, Gayatri chanda samaham, Gayatri chanda samaham, Masanam marga shirshoham, Masanam marga shirshoham, Ritunam kusumakaraha, Ritunam kusumakaraha, Dyutam chalayatam asmi, Dyutam chalayatam, Tejas tejasvinamaham, Tejas tejasvinamaham, Jayosmi vyavasayosmi, Jayosmi vyavasayosmi, Sattvam sattvavatamaham, Sattvam sattvavatamaham, Vrishninam vasudevosmi, Vrishninam vasudevosmi, Pandavanam dhananjaya, Pandavanam dhananjaya, Muninamapyaham vyasaha, Muninamapyaham vyasaha, Kavinamushana kavihi, Kavinamushana kavihi, Dando damayatam asmi, Dando damayatam asmi, Nitirasmi jigishitam, Nitirasmi jigishitam, Maunam chaivasmi guhyanam, Maunam chaivasmi guhyanam, Jnanam jnanavatamaham, Jnanam jnanavatamaham, Yatchapi sarva bhutanam, Yatchapi sarva bhutanam, Bijam dharaham arjuna, Bijam taraham Arjuna na tadasti vinayatsyan na cha tadasti yasyan maya bhutam characharam maya bhutam characharam. Very good. So you remember we've the theme of this chapter. It's some chapters have multiple topics. This chapter very clearly is focused on one particular topic, and that is to help us cultivate the ability to appreciate Ishvara everywhere, all the time. Now we understand conceptually Ishvara is everywhere, all the time. But the fact is, most people don't appreciate Ishvara everywhere, all the time. Certainly when you come to a temple, when you come and stand in front of an altar, maybe during your morning prayers, at various times during the day, you may have that appreciation of Ishvara's presence, but it would certainly be better to cultivate the ability to appreciate Ishvara in other situations as well. Remember Puja Swami Tadatmananda's joke. He said that the person who stands in front of the altar and breaks down in tears and does Shashtanga Namaskaram, lays down, prostrates, and all of this very intense experience of bhakti, devotion, while at the altar. And as soon as a person walks out the door, all that bhakti just evaporates like the mist in the morning. Puja Swamiji calls such a person a spasmodic devotee. So, very apt choice of words, I think you'll agree. So to avoid being a so-called spasmodic devotee, we definitely want to cultivate the ability to perceive Ishvara everywhere, all the time. And the best way to begin, and this is really what the chapter is about, is when you see something. I think in our prior classes we've used the term extreme. At the extremes, Ishvara's presence seems to be more visible. So the extremes of seeing the magnificence of a great mountain is a case of a positive extreme. How about a negative extreme? Some of you know that the creator of the atomic bomb, Robert Oppenheimer, actually quoted Bhagavad Gita at the occasion when the first atomic bomb went off, because Oppenheimer was able to appreciate Ishvara's presence at the negative extreme, the extreme horror of that atomic bomb. So those situations where we see something extreme, at the extremes, we are inspired, I think. It's natural to feel inspired when you witness these expressions, these powerful expressions in nature in particular. We're inspired to feel Ishvara's presence just like you might feel in a temple or during your prayers. And in this chapter, Sri Krishna gives us many, many examples of how we can appreciate Ishvara's presence in these powerful manifestations in nature. And we'll pick up the thread with that. And I think we'll finish this chapter today as well. So we continue with verse 34. Mrityu sarvaharaschaham, mrityu sarvacharaschaham, udbhavascha bhavishyatam, udbhavascha bhavishyatam, kirtishrirvakcha narinam, kirtishrirvakcha narinam, smritir medha dhritikshama, smritir medha dhritikshama. And you remember that most of the chapter, not all, but most of the chapter has a grammatical device, a literary device that's used. Among all these, I am that. Among all these, I am that. Amongst all mountains, I am the Himalayas. Amongst all bodies of water, I am the sea. Amongst all rivers, I am the Ganga, etc., etc. So that pattern continues here as we come towards the end of the chapter. So sarvaharaha, among those, actually that's not genitive. He says, he's actually, in the second line, you see that bhavish, actually that pattern that I just described isn't present in the first two quarters of this verse. It is present in the third quarter. So let's begin there. In the third quarter, he says, Nari Nam, amongst all women, and it's going to have a different meaning, amongst the feminine would be a better translation. Sri Krishna says, I am Kirti, fame. I am Shri, I am wealth. I am Vak, the power of speech. I am Smriti, power of memory. I am Medha, intelligence. I am Dhriti, courage. And I am Kshama, patience and forgiveness. So why does he say, among all that is feminine, I am these? There are two ways of understanding that. One is yet another reference to the Puranas. We see in this chapter so many Puranic references, some of which are a little obscure. They are obscure, and to be honest, I have to look them up. As I said, I'm not an expert in the Puranas, but I have some reference materials, and also the commentary, including Madhusudana Saraswati's commentary, which I'm following. We find a lot of information about these Puranic references because most people haven't mastered the vast literature we know as a Puranas. There is several stories about Dharma, the god of Dharma, having 13 wives. And the 13 wives of Dharma represent all these great qualities, of which 7 of the 13 are mentioned in this verse. So in one sense, Kirti, fame, is one of Dharma's 13 wives, as is Shri, which can also mean Lakshmi. Vak can also mean Saraswati. But in this context, better to understand them as the wives of the god of Dharma. There's another sense in which they're feminine, and for our grammar students in class, they all happen to be in the Stri Linga, in the feminine gender. Each of these words are in the feminine gender. It would not be true to say that these qualities belong only to women, because these qualities we find in all people, including Kirti, fame, Shri, wealth, etc. But the particular words used here all happen to be feminine in gender. So, Nari Nam, amongst all that is feminine, which could mean amongst the wives of the god of Dharma, we have these 7 great examples. Of course, these are only powerful examples if you know the Puranas well. If you don't, however, you can appreciate it in a second sense. As I mentioned, they're all in the feminine gender. Then, the other examples he gives in this verse, Mrityuhu sarvaharaha cha aham. Aham, I, cha, and I am whom? Mrityuhu, god of death. Sarvaharaha, the one who carries all away, the one who robs away life itself. And this is a good example of the negative extreme. Like I gave the positive extreme, among all mountains, I am the Himalayas. And to use Oppenheimer's example, I am that atomic bomb, that horrible bomb. So here we get the negative extreme. I am Mrityuhu, the god of death, the mighty one. Sarvaharaha, the one who carries everyone away at the end of their lives. Of course, carrying them away at the end of their lives, meaning when your prarabdha karma comes to an end. Fortunately, mrityu is not like a guest who just shows up at your door uninvited. You may not know when he's coming, but he already has, sorry to be a little silly here, a guest may or may not have an appointment. And some of you know in Sanskrit, guest is called atiti. One who doesn't have a titi, a date, an appointment. One who just shows up is a guest. Mrityu is not an atiti, not a guest. He shows up at his appointed time. Now the trick is, you may not know his appointed time. His appointed time is when your karmas are exhausted. So at that natural point in your life, when your karmas are exhausted, mrityu arrives. And then the opposite here, bhavishyatam, for all those who will be, in the future tense, for all those who will be reborn. First line is for all those who die. Shri Krishna says, I am mrityu. In the second line, for all those who get reborn, Shri Krishna says, I am udbhavaha. I am their birth. I am death for those who die. I am birth for those who get reborn. And among the feminine, I am fame, wealth, etc. Then, Brahat samatata samnam, Brahat samatata samnam, Gayatri chandasamaham, Gayatri chandasamaham, Masanam marga shirshoham, Marganam marga shirshonam, Vritunam kusumakaraha, Vritunam kusumakaraha. I shouldn't check this while I'm trying to recite. Okay, and this is fine. Excuse me. So, Samnam. Among all saman. Saman is song. Better said, hymn, and in particular, hymns of praise. Hymns of praise found in the Vedas. So Samnam, among all the hymns of praise found in the Vedas, Tata, in the same way, Sri Krishna says, I am the particular hymn known as Brahat Saman, which literally means the great hymn, but it's a reference to a particular hymn that occurs in the Rig Veda, and it's a hymn in praise of Indra, the king of the gods. And for those who are involved in all the rituals and mantras of the Vedas, this particular hymn to Lord Indra is considered one, perhaps the most important. Therefore, Sri Krishna says, among all the hymns of praise in the Vedas, I am the one known as Brahat Saman, the hymn to Indra. And Chandasam, among all, Chandas here means poetic meter. And Sanskrit verse always follows a certain meter. Right now, these verses are in a meter known as Anushtubh Chandas. They have 4 lines of 8 syllables. But there are dozens of meters that are used in the literature. This Anushtubh Chandas is perhaps the most widely used. But in the Vedas, one of the most widely used meters is the Gayatri meter. Now, many of you are accustomed to hearing Gayatri associated with a particular mantra and perhaps associated with a particular goddess. And those are actually secondary meanings. There is a goddess Gayatri, there is a Gayatri mantra, but the primary meaning of Gayatri, if you look it up in a dictionary, the first meaning will be this meaning. This poetic meter happens to have 3 lines of 8 syllables, and it is the meter in which the famous Gayatri mantra is. The Gayatri mantra, it's actually a Savitri mantra. It's a mantra to God in the form of sun. So interesting that we've gotten into the habit of calling it Gayatri Mantra, but it's a bit of a misnomer. It is the most widely recited mantra amongst all the Vedas, amongst all the mantras in the Vedas. That one mantra addressed to Savita, God in the form of sun, is the most widely recited mantra. Happens to be in the Gayatri Chandas, in that particular meter, and perhaps that's why Sri Krishna says, among all the meters, I am the Gayatri, the meter in which that famous mantra to Lord in the form of sun is addressed. Then, Masanam, amongst all months, Aham, I am, Margashirshaha. Margashirsha, it's actually named after a constellation. So when that constellation is in a particular position, that is a particular time of year. I think it's the months in our Western calendar, the months of November and December. So amongst all months, I am Margashirsha, the months of November and December. Why those particular months? There's several ways of explaining it. I think it's the time when the rice harvest comes in. Pongal comes at that time, right? Or in January? I don't know. Anyway, I think it might be associated with the harvest festival, maybe other reasons as well. And regardless, Sri Krishna says, amongst all months, I am that Margashirsha. Now here, before we go on, remember the point of all of these verses is when you come to November and December, you're supposed to remember this verse. Oh, Sri Krishna said this is a month that's associated with him. So I'm just pointing that out as it's one more example, one more occasion to draw our minds back to Ishvara. And that's the theme of this whole chapter. Many, many examples of situations which can inspire us and draw our minds to Ishvara. One more he gives, Ritunam, of all months, Sri Krishna says, I am Kusumakaraha, spring. Literally it means the producer of flowers, because many flowers will bloom in spring. And for many people, spring is the most beautiful of the seasons because of the blooming of the flowers. So Sri Krishna says, therefore, amongst all seasons, I am Kusumakaraha, I am spring when the flowers bloom. So next time you see flowers bloom, or the next time we come to spring, what will you think of? This verse, and you will think of Sri Krishna. Then, Dyutam chalayatam asmi, Dyutam chalayatam asmi, Tejas tejasvinamaham, Tejas tejasvinamaham, Jayosmi vyavasayosmi, Jayosmi vyavasayosmi, Sattvam sattvavatamaham, Sattvam sattvavatamaham. Chalayatam. Amongst all things that are deceptive, amongst all deceits, like in modern times, nowadays what is deceitful is what's called false news. Also, what is deceitful, by the way, allow me to be semi-political here, not only is false news deceptive, but calling truth false news is also deceptive. And that's gone on a lot lately. I won't say by whom and in what situations, but there are plenty of political actors who confront a fact that they don't want to admit. So instead of admitting the fact, they call that fact false news. That is an example of deceit. We have so many examples of deceit nowadays. Sri Krishna gives a very appropriate example of deceit, and that is dyutam, gambling. He says, Asmi, I am, chalayatam, among all deceits, I am dyutam, gambling. Well, first of all, why is gambling deceitful? Because it deceives you into thinking you can win. If anyone goes to these casinos in Atlantic City, they have these casinos, and they call it a game. It's not a game. It's a scam. It's a scam because every one of those games you'll find in Atlantic City are mathematically skewed to ensure that over a period of time, you lose and they win. That's how it works. It's just math. You bring enough people in the door, even though a few people may win, on the average, everyone who walks in the door loses. But they walk in the door without thinking about that. They think, oh, this is a game. I might win. In the long run, everyone loses. Clearly, that's deceit. But the more meaningful connection, most of you pick it up immediately, is in the context of the Bhagavad Gita and the larger context of the Mahabharata, very famous dice game that took place between Yudhishthira, the eldest of the Pandavas, and Shakuni, the uncle of Duryodhana. And this was it was a skewed game. It wasn't a fair game at all. There was cheating involved. And through being cheated, Yudhishthira lost everything. He lost the kingdom. He even lost his family. The family, fortunately, was returned to him. But Yudhishthira basically lost everything, cheated out of everything by this game. Shows the power of, interesting, just an observation here. We said the extremes. There's something extremely powerful about gambling. I'm not sure why. Certain people are vulnerable to becoming addicted, and it is known to be an addiction. Certain people are vulnerable. They fall prey to an addiction to gambling, and it ruins lives and it ruins families. So, as it did for Yudhishthira and the Pandavas, it ruined their lives, it ruined their families, and it contributed to this terrible war taking place, the war that follows the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata. So that power of gambling, it is not to say it's a good thing. When Sri Krishna says, I am gambling, I am gambling amongst all deceits, Sri Krishna isn't saying it's something good, he's saying it's something extraordinary. It's something extraordinarily powerful. Something that can lure even a dharmic person like Yudhishthira. What a message! Even Yudhishthira, the most righteous of all people, dharmic of all people, even Yudhishthira could fall prey to that luring power and deceit of gambling. So if Yudhishthira can fall prey, anyone can fall prey. This is the power of gambling. Because of its power, Sri Krishna says, amongst all deceits, I am gambling. Tejasvinam, among all who have tejas, brilliance. Among all who are brilliant, aham, I am tejas. I am their brilliance. Among those who are brilliant, I am brilliance, is a literal meaning. But here tejas means light, but it has many other meanings as well. Perhaps the first dictionary meaning might be bright or light, but that meaning doesn't quite work here because we're talking about people who are brilliant. And the joke I tell often to children is someone who's brilliant doesn't glow in the dark. So brilliance there is a metaphor. It could mean intelligence. It can also mean a certain kind of personal power. There's a word that we sometimes use, charisma, that personal power, the power to influence others. And here the word tejas really refers to that personal power. Perhaps we could call it the power of charisma. So for those who have personal power, for those who have charisma, Sri Krishna says, I am the source of that charisma. So next time you meet someone who's very impressive in person, maybe that's a good opportunity to reflect. Where does this person's charisma come from? That can elevate your mind to appreciate Ishvara, the one who endowed this person with their charisma, with their tejas, personal power. Then Sri Krishna says, Jayaha asmi, I am victory. So you could even add in the words, among the victorious, I am victory. For those who are victorious, I am victory. Wherever you see victory, you see Ishvara. In fact, the very last verse of the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna comes back and says that very same thing. I am victory. Vyavasayaha asmi. I am vyavasaya, several meanings. I am resolve. I am determination. I am success. Has all of those meanings. So in a situation where someone is victorious or successful or highly accomplished in what they do, perhaps we can appreciate that their accomplishments come with Ishvara's blessings. To use a contemporary example, Elon Musk, a billionaire, but importantly, a self-made billionaire, right? He made that wealth through his intelligence, through his efforts. But now we have to take one step back and understand, where does his drive, his intelligence, his creativity, all of that, where does it come from? Then our minds get elevated to appreciate that. It is Ishvara who blessed him in all of those ways to accomplish everything that he did. Without Ishvara's blessings, he could be on welfare. You get the point. Without God's blessings, without Ishvara's blessings, any of us, we will be suffering and struggling in life. So Shri Krishna says, Jayaha asmi, I am victory. Vyavasayaha asmi, I am determination. I am success. I am the victory of the victorious. I am the success of the successful. And sattvavatam, amongst those who have sattva, and sattva can mean sattva guna, or a better meaning here in this context is sattva is those qualities born of sattva guna. That's what the commentator says. So qualities of goodness, piety, care, love, compassion, concern, all of these wonderful qualities are all qualities that arise from one whose nature is predominantly sattvika. We'll see when we get to chapter 14. We get a long discussion about the three gunas. But in that chapter, we'll see that each and every one of us are a combination of all three gunas. We all have some sattva guna, quality of goodness. We all have some rajoguna, quality of passion and activity, extroversion, and we all have some tamas, tamoguna, the quality of darkness and ignorance. But in each and every one of us, one of those three gunas will be predominant. That's what's taught by Sri Krishna in chapter 14. So here, Sri Krishna is talking about those who have a predominance of sattva guna in their minds and hearts, those whose thinking and behavior is dominated by sattva guna. They exhibit then in their lives qualities born of sattva. They exhibit qualities like care and compassion, good-heartedness. And sattva can simply mean goodness anyway. So sattva vatam, amongst those who have sattva guna, those who have those good qualities, amongst those who are good, Sri Krishna says, aham, I am sattvam. I am the sattvam, I am the, could be sattva guna, or better in a more simple sense, I am the goodness. Sattvam here, goodness. I am the goodness, sattvavatam, of the good. Those who are good are particularly blessed. And blessed by Ishvara, when we see that goodness in someone, our minds, again, can be elevated, inspired to appreciate Ishvara's presence, Ishvara's blessings. Vrishninam vasudevosmi, Vrishninam vasudevosmi, Pandavan. We'll get the verse for you. Next one, there we go. Vrishninam vasudevosmi, Vrishninam vasudevosmi, Pandavanam dhananjayaha, Pandavanam dhananjayaha, Muninamapyaham vyasaha, Muninamapyaham vyasaha, Kavinamushana kavihi, Kavinamushana kavihi. Vrishninam, among the Vrishnis. Vrishni is a family name. It's a clan. So, and members of that clan include Vasudeva, the father of Krishna. Since his father is Vasudeva, Sri Krishna is called Vasudeva, the one who is born from Vasudeva. So in amongst the members of the Vrishni family, the Vrishni clan, Sri Krishna says, I am Vasudeva, I am Sri Krishna, referring to himself as little immodest. He says, I am the best of my family. Now, if you or I said it, it would be quite immodest. When Sri Krishna says it, I think we will give him a break. If anyone deserves to say such a thing, he can get away with that. So among all the Vrishnis, Sri Krishna says, I am Vasudeva, I am the best of my family. Pandavanam, among the Pandavas, and Pandavas refers in the most direct sense to the 5 sons of King, the former King Pandu. So among all the Pandavas, Sri Krishna says, you. Sri Krishna says, I am Dhananjaya. Dhananjaya, you remember, is a name for Arjuna, the one who conquered wealth during Yudhishthira's yajna. Arjuna went out to conquer all the Rajasuya yajna. Arjuna was sent out to conquer all the nearby kingdoms. Therefore, Arjuna is called Dhananjaya, conqueror of wealth. It's a name for Arjuna. So among all the Vrishnis, Sri Krishna says, I am Vasudeva, Krishna, your charioteer, Arjuna. And amongst all the Pandavas, he says, I am Arjuna. He's telling Arjuna that in a way, you, Arjuna, if I am the greatest of the Vrishnis, you, Arjuna, are the greatest of the Pandavas. But Sri Krishna is using first person all the way through. So I am Dhananjaya, I am Arjuna. Why Arjuna? Greatest of the Pandavas. If you ask why greatest, we could say Yudhishthira perhaps was greatest in terms of dharma, but Arjuna was clearly greatest in terms of power, strength, which is perhaps most crucial in this situation on the battlefield. So on a battlefield, that power is most important. So among all the Pandavas, Sri Krishna says, I am Dhananjaya, I am the powerful one, Arjuna. And Muninam, there's a little joke here. Muninam, among all munis, sages. Among all sages, Sri Krishna says, Aham, I am Vyasa. I am Vyasa. Now the little joke here is, who is composing these verses? Now the words of Sri Krishna, but as I've pointed out before, Sri Krishna and Arjuna weren't on the battlefield conversing in verses. No one converses in verse form. So they had a dialogue, they had a discussion, and then after the fact, Vyasa, being omniscient, composes all of these verses based on events that took place. So based on the dialogue that took place between Sri Krishna and Arjuna, Vyasa composed the verses that now comprise the Bhagavad Gita. So when Sri Krishna says, Muninam aham Vyasaha, among all sages I am Vyasa, who is the one composing that line? Exactly. But definitely, if you wanted to pick out any rishi, any sage as being perhaps most important, absolutely you would choose Vyasa, regardless of that fact. Vyasa being the one who compiled the 4 Vedas, Vyasa being the author not only of the Mahabharata, but the author of 18 Mahapuranas, huge works filled with all these wonderful stories. So Vyasa, amongst all the rishis, is clearly the most renowned, most important of the rishis. So that's why Sri Krishna would definitely say, among all the rishis, amongst all those great sages, I am Vyasa, the greatest of them all. Kavinam, amongst all kavis. And kavi literally means poet, but that's a little misleading. Because in ancient times, in modern times, we think of a poet as someone who has a way with language and words. That's not the way they understood poets in ancient times. It wasn't based on language, the ability to compose poems. It had more to do with being insightful. In ancient times, a poet is one who has tremendous insight. The Sanskrit word that's used for such ones is Krantadarshi. Krantadarshi, one who is far-sighted, one who could see what others cannot see, is a kavi. So that's the ancient concept of poet. Modern concept is one who's very skillful in expressing beautiful things in language, but in ancient times, nothing to do with language. One who had the ability to see and understand things no one else could see or understand. Such a person is a kavi. We call them poets. So kavinam, amongst all those poets, amongst all those who are filled with such insight, gifted with such insight. How are they gifted? Again and again, Sri Krishna uses these examples to help us appreciate the one who endows us all with insight and perception and intelligence and all of our capacities and powers. So the one who endowed all those ancient rishis and poets with their insight, that one is Ishvara. So Sri Krishna here says, Kavinam, amongst all those poets, amongst all those who have insights, Sri Krishna gives an example of one who is most insightful. A little obscure reference. Ushanas, there's a typo here, it's not Ushana, his name is Ushanas, was a rishi, and he's a rishi who is credited as being the guru of the god Shukra, Shukracharya, the head of the demons, I think. The guru of the demons. So the guru of the guru is Ushanas. So Sri Krishna says, I am Ushanas, I am the Guru of the Guru, I am the most insightful of the ones who have insight, is the idea. Then, Dando Damayatam Asmi. We're having a problem with that computer. The computer is freezing. Maybe someone after class can take a look at this computer and see if it can be fixed. We okay? Good. Dando Damayatam Asmi. Dando Damayatam Asmi. Nitirasmi Jigishitam. Nitirasmi Jigishitam. Maunam Chaivasmi Guhyanam. Maunam Chaivasmi Guhyanam. Jnanam Jnanavatamaham. Jnanam Jnanavatamaham. Damayatam. Damayatra. One who punishes. What an expression. One who metes out punishment. This translation, warden, is maybe a little, I don't know if that's a good translation or not. Maybe a better reference would be in a court of law, the judge is the one who gives out punishment, who determines your punishment. We're not talking about a court in which there's a jury, but a court in which it's just the judge. So that judge is a Damayatra, the one who gives punishment. And for that judge, literally for the punisher, among punishers, among judges, Sri Krishna says, Asmi, I am Dandaha. Danda can mean punishment. Danda is also that rod, that stick, the one that you are beat with. So in a literal sense, the rod of punishment, and in a figurative sense, punishment itself. For those who punish, like judges, I am punishment. I am the rod of punishment. And jigishitam, for those who want to conquer, for those who want victory. And here I think maybe those two verses can be taken in a legalistic sense, in a courtroom. So in a courtroom, it is the judge who gives out punishment. So the judge is the most powerful one in that courtroom. So Sri Krishna says, I am that judge. And then, jigishitam, for those who want to be victorious, and in a legal sense, plaintiff. For those who stand before the judge, for those who are being judged, for them, what is most important is nitihi, the law. When those who are being judged are on the side of the law, then they don't receive punishment. For those who go contrary to the law, they receive punishment. For those who want to succeed, jigishitam, for those who want to be victorious and avoid punishment, what can save them is nitihi, law. For those who are righteous, niti, law is their refuge. So Sri Krishna says, for those who want to be acquitted of their crimes, I am nitihi, I am law. And law is the ruling principle in every courtroom. So therefore Sri Krishna says, I am the judge. I am the laws wielded by that judge. Also, guhyanam, for things which are secret. For secrets. This is very nice poetry. Maunam cha eva, breaking up the words. Maunam cha eva asmi. Cha eva, and also asmi, I am maunam, silence. Guhyanam, amongst secrets. Nice poetry. Amongst all secrets, I am maunam. I am the silence that maintains the secrecy of the secret. things which are secret or mysterious, Sri Krishna says, I am Maunam. I am that secrecy. I am the specialness of all that is held to be secret. Finally, he says, Jnanam jnanavatam aham. Aham, I am, jnanavatam. For all who possess knowledge, I am jnanam, knowledge. How clear it is that Sri Krishna says, whenever we see someone or something that's endowed with a very special quality, those special qualities can make us appreciate the source of those special qualities. So when you see someone who is extremely righteous, someone who's extremely kind, someone who's extremely intelligent, we can appreciate that all of those wonderful qualities are all gifts given by Bhagavan, given by Ishvara, and seeing those special gifts that people possess, we can then reflect on the divine source of all those gifts. Yat-chapi sarva bhutanam, yat-chapi sarva bhutanam, bijam taraham arjuna, bijam taraham arjuna, natarasti vina yatsyan, natarasti vina yatsyan, maya bhutam characharam, maya bhutam characharam. He's now working his way towards the end of the chapter, beginning to summarize. He says, sarva yat cha api, and also, he says, that which sarva bhutanam, for all beings, for all that exists, Sri Krishna says, aham, I, in the second line, aham, I am tat, that. That what? Tat bijam, that seed. I am that seed because of which all beings can exist. I am the seed of existence. This is a very common reference to how we understand Ishvara. And a quick aside here, the understanding of Ishvara, God, in this tradition is so different than what's found in most other religions. As you know, most other religions will hold that God is some kind of supernatural, super powerful, all-knowing being in some distant realm, in some heavenly domain. And the ancient rishis completely rejected that concept and understood Ishvara in a very profound and relevant way. Relevant in the sense that Ishvara is present here and now as the one giving existence to everything that is. He gives satta and spurti, is the Sanskrit terminology. Satta, existence. Spurti, appearance, manifestation. Ishvara gives satta and spurti, existence and manifestation to everything that exists. In that way, Sri Krishna says, Tadaham, I am that bijam, I am the seed of existence. I'm the very essence of existence for everything. We've said in the beginning of this class that the goal is to appreciate Ishvara everywhere, always, all the time. So here, whatever you see that exists, something mundane, like a water bottle, the existence of this ordinary bottle of water, we can understand as the bijam, the root cause for the existence of the ordinary is extraordinary. The ordinary is a pointer to the extraordinary. For this ordinary bottle of water, there is an ordinary cause. The ordinary cause is whoever made this bottle of water. Poland spring. So the ordinary cause for this water is a spring in Poland. I think Poland is a town in upstate New York or something like that. Anyway, so that spring is the ordinary cause for this bottle of water. The extraordinary cause for this ordinary bottle of water is Ishvara. So the point is, ordinary things can elevate our minds to appreciate Ishvara. So he says, I am Tadaham, O Arjuna, I am the seed of existence for all that exists. In the second half, we have to connect two words in the third and fourth line, Vina and Maya. Those two words have to be connected. Maya Vina, without me. Maya, me, Vina, without me, Natadasti, it would not exist. Nat syat, would not, yat syat, would not exist. Natadasti yat syat, it would not exist. What would not exist? Bhutam, any creature. Any bhutam, any creature would not exist, whether that creature was chara, a living, moving thing, or achara, a non-living, non-moving thing. All things, living or not, moving or not, nothing would exist. Maya vina, without me. So this bottle of water could not exist without the extraordinary cause for the ordinary bottle of water, the extraordinary cause being Ishvara. Then, Nantosti mama divyanam, Nantosti mama divyanam, Vibhutinam parantapa, Vibhutinam parantapa, Esha tu deshata prokto, Esha tu deshata prokto, Vibhuter vistaro maya, Vibhuter vistaro maya. Mama divyanam vibhutinam parantapa, O mighty Arjuna, mama of my divyanam, divine, vibhutinam, my divine glories, of my divine glories, na antaha asti. There is no end to my divine glories. My divine glories are infinite in number, O Arjuna. But eshaha, in the second half, we have to connect some words apart. Eshaha vistaraha, in the third and fourth lines. Eshaha vistaraha, this elaboration that has been proktaha maya, that has been described by me, prokta, said, maya, by me. This elaboration that has been described by me, this elaboration, vibhutehe, of my glories, this elaboration of my glories that has been told to you, Arjuna, this elaboration is tu, in the third line. You have to break apart the words tu and uddeshataha. Tu, but this elaboration that I've given you, Arjuna, is uddeshataha. It's given as an example. My glories are infinite in number. O Arjuna, I've only given you a small, we might call it a small sample of my glories. Remember, earlier in a chapter, Arjuna spoke to Sri Krishna and said, "O Krishna, I want to know everything. Please tell me." He used the word, what was the word he used? He used the word asheshena. Please tell me completely your glories. Arjuna wanted to hear it all. Sri Krishna says, it's just not possible. My glories are infinite in number. Therefore, Sri Krishna says here, what I've told you, Arjuna, is uddeshataha. It stands as a mere example, as a mere sampling of my infinite glories. Notice that he's gone on for quite a while, verse after verse after verse, giving us examples of ways in which we can see Ishvara's glories in the world. And after giving all of these many, many examples, then Sri Krishna says, all of these many examples are but a fraction, just a sampling of my glories. And he makes that point here in the next, he makes another point here. Yad tad vibhuti mat sattvam, yat tad vibhuti mat sattvam, Shrimad urjitam eva va, Shrimad eva va, tat tadeva gachatvam, tat tadeva gachatvam, mama tejom shasambhavam, mama tejom shasambhavam. Yat tat, whichever, vibhuti mat sattvam. Here sattvam means something that exists. So whatever that exists, yat tat sattvam, whatever that exists, which is vibhuti mat, which has vibhutis, which is glorious. Whatever glories that exist, whatever exists endowed with special qualities. That's a nice translation. Whatever that happens to exist that you observe is endowed with some special qualities. Sri Krishna says, Tvam, in the third line, Tvam, you, Arjuna, avagacha, you should understand, please understand, Arjuna, that wherever you perceive glories in the world, understand what? Tat tat eva, that all of those individual glories, whatever you see, all of those glories are mama teja amsha sambhavam. All of those glories are sambhavam. They are born of mama tejas amsha. Amsha, a part of mama tejas, of my power, of my glories. Whatever glories you see, I'll paraphrase the whole verse. Whatever glories you see, whatever special qualities you see manifest in the world around you, O Arjuna, understand all of those glories are but a tiny fraction of the glories which I truly possess. We only see, the metaphor we use in English, the tip of the iceberg. They say that most of the iceberg is below the surface of the water. We only see that little bit that rises above the surface of the water. So in the same way, what we perceive in the world, all the glories and majestic things that we experience in the world, Sri Krishna says, as majestic and glorious as they are, all of them put together are but a tiny fraction of my greatness, Sri Krishna says. This is lovely poetry, the way in which this expresses Sri Krishna's magnificence and how we can appreciate Ishvara's greatness, Ishvara's glories through all these little signs we see all around us every day. And as I said, the signs need not be so amazing. Even that which is ordinary can be a pointer to the extraordinary. But it's up to us to appreciate that, and this whole chapter is meant to help us appreciate that. And with this verse, we come to the final verse of the chapter. Atava bahunaitena, atava bahunaitena, kim jnatena tavarjuna, kim jnatena tavarjuna, vishtabhyahamidam kritsnam, Vishtabhyahamadam kritsnam ekam shena sthito jagata ekam shena sthito jagata. Very typical kind of poetry. And so here, think about the poetic approach. Sri Krishna has said, whatever you in the prior verse, I am greater than anything you can imagine. And then this verse says, and I'm even greater than that. It's just this one up-leveling again and again and again, trying to point to that which is utterly inconceivably magnificent. So how will Sri Krishna do that poetically? He says, atava, or alternatively means instead of seeing the greatness you perceive in all the magnificence present in the world, when Sri Krishna said, I am but all of that is but a tiny fraction of my magnificence. Atava, or another way of saying it is this. And what does he say? He says in the second line, Kim tava, O Arjuna, Kim tava. What is there for you? Etena bahunena jnatena. By understanding everything I have just taught you, Arjuna, what is there? And to put it into more American English, it would be like to saying, what's the point? What's the point of all this elaboration? What's the value of all this elaborating all these many, many ways in which Ishvara's magnificence becomes apparent in the world? Finally, he says, what's the use? Why? He says, Vishtabhya aham, I, Vishtabhya, having established idam kritsnam, this kritsnam, entire, and the last line, jagat, world, having created this entire world, aham stitaha, I remain ekam shena. Let me rephrase that. Ekam shena, with just a fraction, eka amsha, with just one little part of me, I created this entire world. So Sri Krishna is giving an alternate way of understanding his greatness. Everything that's gone on so far is with reference to the universe. By looking out into the universe, we see so much evidence of greatness, of that which is absolutely miraculous in our estimation. But in his last verse, Sri Krishna says, instead of looking out there into the world to appreciate my magnificence, Sri Krishna says, look at me. And understand from my point of view, the entire world is just the tiniest fraction of me. Through a tiny fraction of me, the world came into existence. 2 verses back, he called himself the Bijam, the seed for the world. But that seed for the world is just a tiny fraction of Ishvara. There's a famous hymn, Purusha Suktam, which makes it says using different poetry. The hymn says, Paroho sya vishwa bhutani Tripadasyamritan divi. This is a hymn that comes in the Rig Veda, Yajurveda. And this hymn, and in this hymn, Purusha is the word used for Ishvara, and it is said that that Ishvara, asya paraha, from just 1/4 of that Ishvara, Vishwa Bhutani, all of the universe arose from just 1/4. I'm using the metaphor used in this poem. The entire universe arose from just 1/4 of that great being, Ishvara, and Tripadasya Amritan Divi. And the other 3 parts, asya, of that Purusha, of that cosmic being, 1 part is manifest in the world, the other 3 parts lie beyond, divi, in the heavens. 1 part of the being is manifest as the world, 3 parts lie beyond. 1 part is immanent, manifest, immediately present in the world. 3 parts are beyond, transcendent. And Sri Krishna is making a reference to that here, where he says, 1 part of me, eka amsha, 1 part of me is manifest in the world, which means the rest of me lies beyond. The rest is transcendent. So at the end of this wonderful chapter, Sri Krishna inspires us all to appreciate that in all the glories of the world, we can appreciate Ishvara's magnificence. Those glories kind of inspire us to reflect on Ishvara again and again throughout each day. But in addition to that, whatever we see, the glories of the world we see are just the tiniest fraction of the glories that belong to Ishvara. And with this, we come to the end of the chapter. At the end of each chapter, we like to review the chapter using our English version. We'll do that now. So this English version summarizes the chapter. We can chant it in English verses that follow the meter of the original. I think it'll be helpful for the first verse, listen and repeat. And then for the remaining verses, we can chant together. Listen and repeat. The blessed Lord said, the blessed Lord said, O Arjuna, hear once again. O Arjuna, hear once again. What I say for your benefit, what I say for your benefit, neither the gods nor sages know, neither the gods nor sages know the greatness of my majesty, the greatness of my majesty. We'll chant together now. Join me. Intelligence, tranquility, patience, truthfulness, charity, fearlessness, equanimity, all these arise from me alone. I am the origin of all. From me everything emanates. Knowing me thus, those worship me, who are wise and contemplative. I abide in the hearts of all, and destroy their dark ignorance with blazing knowledge shining bright. Through my compassion they are blessed. Arjuna said, highest Brahman, supreme abode, Spirit eternal, holy Lord, uncreated, all-powerful, the wise describe you in this way. Everything you have told me now, I believe it to be the truth. Yet you alone, through your own self, can know you as you truly are. please completely describe to me all your glories divine indeed. With them do you pervade the world, and with them you abide therein. What are the many forms in which I am to meditate on you? State your glories explicitly. Of hearing them I never tire. The blessed Lord said, listen, I shall declare for you of my glories divine indeed, only those that are prominent, since my extent is limitless. O Arjuna, I am the self abiding in the hearts of all. Indeed, I am their very start, and their middle and end as well. Among all lights I am the sun, of the waters I am the sea, of all rivers the great Ganges, of mountains the Himalayas. Among all people I am king, of all monarchs the lord of death, of animals the mighty lion, and of weapons the thunderbolt. Among chief gods I am Vishnu, of the sages Vyasa am I, of all archers I am Rama, of celestials Narada, of words I am the sacred Om, of Vedic hymns the Gayatri. In each secret silence am I, and in all beings' consciousness. I am the goodness of the good. I am the wisdom of the wise. I am the splendor of the bright. Of all leaders I am their might. Whatever glories that exist, each powerful and grand indeed, understand clearly whence they come, from just a fraction of my might. And that concludes our study of chapter 11, chapter 10. Next week, we will continue on to chapter 11, Vishwarupa Darshana, the famous chapter in which Sri Krishna reveals his cosmic form. The purpose of that chapter is much like this chapter, to elevate our minds to better appreciate who and what is that Ishvara, God of the cosmos. I'll just mention that these English verses, if you're interested, they're available online. There's a video that has all 18 chapters chanted in English. You can find that video. Also, I'll mention that we just published chapter 2 of our dramatic reenactment of the Bhagavad Gita. It's coming out quite nicely. I would encourage you not only to go and watch that video on chapter 2, dramatic reenactment, but also invite your family and friends to watch. It's something everyone can enjoy. Also, the more, I have to just tell you a secret, the more people who watch on YouTube, the more YouTube will promote the video to others. So by watching the videos, you actually encourage that video to be watched by many others. So for that reason also, you can invite your friends and family members to watch. And we'll conclude now with our brief prayers at the altar. Om Gananahan Tva Ganapatigam Avamahe Kaving Gavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspataha Nashranvan Utabasira Saranam Om Mahaganapataye Namaha. Ishvaro Gurudhatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyoma Vadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramhanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityur Ma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om.